So when I first got into cryptocurrency, it was like a minefield. I mean, sure, the technology was impressive and people kept on telling me that it was going to change the world someday, but I had no idea how to value Bitcoin or Ethereum. I mean, when it comes to stocks or real estate, it's quite simple, right? There are numerous ways we can look at them to determine if they should grow or fall in value. When it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum though, it's not so simple. Neither pay you cash on a regular basis, so we're just sat there thinking to ourselves, even if this thing is cool and it might be used in the future, how much can it really be worth? Thankfully, it's been just under 4 years since then, and after working full-time in cryptocurrency for that time, I've developed my knowledge a little bit and I've got my head around the important questions. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what I've learned about Ethereum in the past few years and the fundamental analysis that you need to know to help you make a better decision whether to buy Ethereum, to buy Bitcoin, or to buy both. The first thing I want to say is just to be honest with you and tell you that I hold cryptocurrency as part of my own portfolio. Therefore, I'm going to try to keep my own opinions out of it as much as possible and really focus on the data and the facts which can help you to build your knowledge as you decide what you want to do. Hey, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Tom. I talk about all things investing and personal finance. So if you're a little bit of a nerd like myself and you want to become a better investor, hit that subscription button down below for 2 new videos every week. Okay, so back in late 2017, the cryptocurrency bubble was raging and idiots like this were wearing sweaters bragging about their newfound wealth, thinking they were geniuses because they bought into Bitcoin or Ethereum. Well, we all know what happened next. Now, I don't know about you, but I personally went down with a crash, and at the time, well, it was painful. It was really painful, but it was ultimately invaluable as I got to learn so much about investing from that time. But as the world, it was getting carried away, there was one man who was speaking sense. Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, tweeted on December 13th, 2017, so the total crypto coin market cap just hit $0.5 trillion today. But have we earned it? How many unbanked people have we banked? How many apps have we created that have sustainable usage? Ethereum's founder was trying to tell us at that time that sure, the price was going up, but were the other important numbers rising too? Were more people actually using Ethereum for what it's designed for? Were new users flooding into the space because they wanted to use apps built on Ethereum? Or was it just to make money as the price rose? Well, looking back, I think we can safely say that 99.9% of people were entering the industry just because the price was rising, not to actually use the projects being built. I don't think this is a surprise, nor do I think it should be condemned. Money talks. It always has and it always will. When you hear that your neighbors are making easy money, the word begins to travel, much quicker than if your neighbor is just using some new application. But the point remains. If the price is rising, but the number of people using the underlying platform is not going up, then the price is only soaring because of new investors entering the space, not because of the fundamentals of the platform itself. So with the total cryptocurrency market recently crossing $1 trillion, Ethereum at all-time highs, and Bitcoin shooting well past its all-time highs, we have to ask the question today. Is this time sustainable? Are people actually using the platform this time? Or are people just buying because the price is going up? Well, let's look at the stats. Just quickly, I'd like to say thank you to Nick Chong because his Twitter thread was a major inspiration for this video, so I will leave a link in the description below. So this chart here shows us the total number of transactions happening on Ethereum. Basically, this gives us a rough guide of the number of people trying to use Ethereum. And our chart begins in 2015 with very low values. As late 2015 and 2016 pass, the total number of transactions, it begins to climb. In 2017, the number explodes as the price also rises, reaching a peak of just over 1.3 million per day. Over the course of 2018 though, the number of transactions begins to fall, before rebounding in 2019, and finally, 2020 saw a huge increase and the number is now back to all-time highs. Now, let's test something out for a second. Let's move this chart to the top of the screen, and now we're going to put the Ethereum price chart on the bottom. Now, do you notice something really quite funny? That's right, these two charts look very similar. As one rises, so does the other. As one falls, so does the other. So from a basic analysis, you might conclude that it makes sense that Ethereum's price is around the same value as the peak of 2017. After all, so are the transactions. However, there are 2 major differences here. After the bubble burst in 2017, the price crashed immensely in 2018, dropping 94% from the peak to the bottom. Transactions, they also fell, but by a lesser 74%, which can be seen as an indication that some users stuck around even after the crash. Now, as someone who was crazy enough to stick around during that time, I can tell you from my experience that I found this to be true. Just anecdotal evidence, I know, but that is my personal experience. Also, going back to our chart, the other major difference is that the number of transactions has been relatively consistent for the past 6 months now, whereas back in 2017, the peak was only achieved for a number of days. Transaction data this time around looks far more sustainable. This is also backed up when we look at a chart showing us how much of Ethereum's capacity is being used up. The entire chart has large peaks and troughs throughout. It's not exactly a consistent line. That is until around midway through 2020. From this point onwards, transaction levels have been consistently high. And interestingly, this came before much of the recent price move, not the other way around. Okay, so people are using Ethereum to send transactions. But what exactly does that mean? And is it even significant? Couldn't you make the argument that the transactions have only risen because the price has gone up? Well, let's keep digging. This chart shows us the number of unique Ethereum addresses created. Basically, this gives us an idea of how many people are using Ethereum. Now, for the sake of balance, I want to point out that you or I, we could create more than one address if we choose. Therefore, the number of addresses, they don't match perfectly with the number of people. However, what we know is that the two numbers are correlated. So as this number on the chart rises, the number of users is also generally going up. Around the time of the peak in 2017, the total number of addresses was around 25 million. Today, it sits at around 125 million. That is a 5 times increase. And again, I don't think this necessarily means there are exactly 5 times more users, but the number has risen significantly. And interestingly, this number has been growing steadily even during the tough year of 2018. So this goes back to my anecdotal experience. The bubble of 2017 caused a huge influx of new people. And sure, 95% of them might have left when the price crashed, but the 5% who remained caused the overall community to grow in a major way. So this data tells us that there are more people using Ethereum than there were back in 2017. There are also more transactions happening on a daily basis, which ultimately results in a strong community through the network effect. These are good signals and indicate that Ethereum today looks stronger than it did back in 2017. However, the question still remains, has Ethereum earned its value today? Specifically, are there apps today with sustainable usage? We know back in 2017 that most of the projects being built on Ethereum were just ideas. But what about today? So, let's take a look. This chart shows us the total number of users for something called decentralized finance, or DeFi for short. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into what DeFi is today, but what I'll say is that in my opinion, this is by far the most interesting sector within cryptocurrency, and it's built on Ethereum. Now, as we can see, the total number of users has grown tremendously over 2020 and has now crossed 1 million. So back in 2017, nearly every project was just an idea. Today, however, there is an entire sector with real and growing usage. Now, if we break DeFi down into the different projects, we can see that it's not just 1 or 2 projects doing well either. There are numerous different projects all attracting real users at the same time. And this is just 6 projects here, but there are many more projects that look just like this. And finally, this chart shows us the total value locked up in DeFi. I won't go too deep here either, but basically this number can be seen as an indication of how much money there is in the market. Well, this value has been climbing during 2020 and now sits at just under $25 billion. Now, if you've been following this channel for some time, you might remember that I talked about this exact topic back in July last year. Well, back in that video, there was just under $2 billion locked up. So 25 billion today, 2 billion back then. That is a 12 times growth in just under 6 months. By the way, I'm always sharing trends like this with you on this channel as I discover them myself. I'm not always right, but I'll always tell you exactly what I see in the market. So if you don't want to miss out, make sure you are subscribed. So listen, we've seen that the number of people using Ethereum is on the rise, far above what it was in 2017. We've also seen that a major industry, decentralized finance, is being built on Ethereum, and that industry has a growing number of users. But in spite of that, you'll always hear counter arguments to these points. Some of these are actually very fair, and I'll say them myself. One of the biggest, and one which I actually want to share with you myself, is that nearly everyone who uses things built on Ethereum today are already in cryptocurrency. This is not mainstream adoption. This is just convincing people who are already in the industry to go out and test something new. That is fair. Absolutely true. It will be foolish to disagree. But here's the thing. On the screen now, you can see a famous chart called the adoption curve. So this shows us the phases that all new technologies go through in their path to adoption. The first stage is the tech enthusiasts, who are described here as the innovators. These are the people who are either so obsessed with technology or they are very into investing and they're looking for that next big opportunity. As the technology progresses and begins to get adopted by more people, it crosses over into the second stage, where the visionaries and early adopters begin to use the product. Next come the early majority. These are the people who have been waiting on the sidelines for a while. They're neither early nor are they late. After is the conservative late majority, and finally, we have the skeptics who join in last. So in 2017, there was basically no one using projects built on Ethereum. If I were to plot where we were on the adoption curve, it probably would have been about here. Today, most of the people using projects built on Ethereum are still just people within cryptocurrency, which means we are probably in the first phase still. Although this right here is a tweet from Mark Cuban, where he mentions by name one of the projects in DeFi, and he says he's tested out the platform for himself. So maybe we are beginning to drift towards the end of stage 1 and maybe even towards stage 2. But exactly where Ethereum is on this chart, it doesn't matter. The point is this: there are clear signs that Ethereum is moving along the adoption curve. Yes, most people using the projects built on Ethereum, they are in the industry already, but that's exactly how adoption usually begins. As long as Ethereum is moving along this curve, then the signs are positive. So the other day, I was speaking to a close friend and he indicated to me that he doesn't know if Ethereum's price is going much higher than it is today. Well, I'll tell you what I told him. As an investor, I think the biggest opportunity in the world comes when you find a piece of technology that is early in the adoption curve. It is moving in the right direction and is majorly misunderstood by most people. That situation right there can create a huge inefficiency, and inefficiencies are an investor's dream. Just look back to the internet. In the beginning, most people didn't understand it. But today, the world's most valuable companies are internet companies. At the same time though, internet companies were extremely volatile for many years. Many of them failed, and many of the world's largest investors, such as Warren Buffett, they stayed well away. The same has been true so far and will continue to be true for Ethereum. That's why I will say upfront, I have no idea whether the price is going to be tomorrow, next week, next month, or even next year. I simply look at it like this. Ethereum is a platform which allows developers to build applications on top of. So you could build the next Uber, the next Airbnb, or even create a fairer version of finance. Ethereum, which sits below these applications, it will capture a bit more value with each successful thing built on top. I think about it like that. I look at the market cap of 140 billion today, which wouldn't even be in the top 50 companies in the world. And remember, it's like the framework to build future companies on top of. And I think that looks undervalued based on where I believe Ethereum will be in 10 years from now. Basically, Ethereum is valued here today, and I believe it will be valued here in 10 years. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a smooth line up. In fact, I really suspect it won't. I suspect it will continue moving in cycles like this, up and down. But at the end of the day, because I'm invested for the long term, I don't care if it's smooth or not. I don't care if there are cycles. I only care about the price today and the price in 10 years. Now, at the same time, I'm nowhere near arrogant enough to think that just because I think something is true, that it means I'm right. I could be wrong. I've certainly been wrong before. I've been wrong very visibly and publicly in front of you, and I can hold my hands up and admit that. At the end of the day, one of the great things about life is that we all have different perspectives on things. You may think totally differently to me, and we can still appreciate each other's thoughts. My only goal here is really just to explain what I think and show my reasoning based on the data. I don't know if I'm right or if I'm wrong. Either way, I just hope you've enjoyed this video, maybe learned a thing or two, and if you have, make sure to subscribe for 2 videos like this every week. Thank you for watching. I will see you again very soon.